When I was a child, something used to watch me. It only happened at night in my room and scared the absolute hell out of me. I gave this thing a name, and it wasn't a particularly scary name, but rest assured, that didn't make him any less horrifying. It was humanoid and wore a suit and tie, and because of this, I called him the Tie Man. His skin was an unnatural color with bumps and looked melted. The closest approximation I could describe him would be some sort of goblin. An acrid, musky odor filtered out of his horrible boils and made me sick to my stomach. I'd be lying in bed, and out of nowhere, a hole would form in the ceiling. It was always in front of my bedroom door, which blocked my exit. This seemed to be no accident. He would hang upside down from the ceiling with only his upper torso showing and watch me. Many times I was too paralyzed with fear to move and could only wait for him to get me. Many times his mouth would move as if talking, but I never heard him say anything. Often he would raise his arm and point at me in some silent accusation, glaring at me with unknown hatred. Every time I wanted to scream, the air would leave my lungs and I could only press harder into my bed and pray he didn't come for me. All I could think was, please, don't let this thing touch me. On occasion, my voice would return long enough for me to call my parents for help. He would scowl and disappear right before they'd enter my room. My parents would ask what was wrong, to which I always uttered, "The Tie Man is back." Sometimes, if he kept me hypnotized for long enough, he would get closer. Thankfully, this rarely happened because it was so much worse. He'd pry himself out of the hole and use his hands to scale the wall toward me. When this first happened, I realized that he actually didn't have any legs. He would keep his eyes locked with mine, which was how he paralyzed me as he slowly pulled himself along the wall toward my bed. It would get as close to me as possible and reach out its wretched, mangled hand. I'd shiver uncontrollably, but was powerless to whatever this thing had over me. By squinting my eyes shut, I could only pretend it wasn't there long enough before it would inexplicably disappear. This went on until I got to the age where monsters in the dark were no longer a fear for me. I never saw him again while awake, but my memories never let him go. Sometimes in my dreams, I would see that thing hanging down from my ceiling with that awful, awful leer, pointing at me, paralyzing me, and watching me with a loathsome stare until I felt my mind begin to break down. Years later, we were moving out of that house, and I'd long forgotten about the Tie Man. That is, until we cleaned out the attic. I was up there to help move everything out, handing items down in a productivity line. The summer heat was unbearable up there, so we moved as quickly as possible. Yet that momentum stopped abruptly as an item stirred that memory deep within my psyche. To my absolute astonishment, there was a full suit, complete with a tie, stuffed deep into the corner of the attic. It was nothing recent, as dust was not just on it, but had settled into the fabric. My hands went into a tremor as I pulled it out of the corner space. My mind locked up for a moment in disbelief as I recalled the awful memory. I didn't even hear my family calling for me, asking for the next item. They noted how pale I went as I handed them the suit, as if in a trance. I was told to come down from the attic, as they were concerned I was going to have a heat stroke, but my constitution had nothing to do with the high temperature. After I had some water and calmed down enough to speak, I relayed to my parents my recollection of the Tie Man. My mother stated that it must be an old suit of my father's, but from the strained expression on her face, I knew better. My dad had no recollection of the suit, although, despite them telling me this, I could have sworn on my life they exchanged a look. Perhaps it was just the heat. I researched heavily into the Tie Man, hoping to find some fragment of information to help ease my conscience. Yet I found nothing. Even more strangely, the suit that we found disappeared after that day. I've never seen it since. Maybe this Tie Man existed somewhere between reality and fiction. Or maybe it was some weird coincidence. Either way, this left an impression of the Thai man that I would never forget. Even to this day, I have an inexplicable urge to check the ceiling by my bedroom door and expect to see him there. Maybe he is somehow still there, hiding and waiting for his next victim to come along. Hating, waiting, and watching. Don't forget to support the author. Credit and links are in the description, as well as a link to learn more about The Dark Place in Your Mind, Strange Tales of Horror by Brian C. Sloan. Until next time.